So, dear students, welcome to the session. This side, Shashank. So, today on our Industry Connect, we have Mr. Yasheen Shaik, who will be being a part of this particular session and give the industry knowledge on scalability in cloud computing. So, Yasheen sir, please give a brief introduction about yourself and we can take the session forward from there.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Good evening, students. I hope you're having a good weekend and thank you for taking time on a Saturday evening to join this session. Okay. So, when I was approached to give a session on one of the couple of topics that was there on the mind, so I thought, okay, probably I'll take this one. Uh, Primarily, had I know I didn't have a text. I didn't have uh, prior material on this one. But I know that this was a problem that was happening in the cloud arena, and this is a gap that was happening between the corporate people who are working and also people who were learning about the cloud. Okay, so I thought, okay, let me probably briefly take up this particular topic so that it will be useful for students who are bridging the gap and moving from the college into the corporate structure. Okay, so about me, I'm Yashin. So I have close to 20 years of experience in the IT industry. So currently, I'm the senior manager for Salesforce, and I lead the EMEA region now at this point of time for taking care of the customers in UK uh, yeah, and associated EMEA regions for Salesforce. So prior to that, I started off my career with Infosys, and then I did a decade with Oracle, from the database to the ERP systems, and then to the Oracle Cloud, and then I worked in a startup called Aptio, and then I am currently working with Salesforce. Okay, so that's all about me. So academically, I've always been penchant on learning and also been giving back to the colleges, to the students. So I am closely associated with Miles, and wherever they require me for guest lectures for your college or for some of the other colleges in Bangalore and across the country as well. Okay, so yeah, so what makes me eligible to talk about analytics and cloud is that I've been working in cloud for the last 10 years now, and I have done my post graduation in analytics. So I know a bit of it so that I can try to share my wisdom to you guys. Okay, sounds good. So that's all about my introduction. So now let me get started. So before we start off with scalability in cloud computing, let's try to understand about what is cloud computing in the first place, right? So you would have probably started learning about it in your college already, about what is cloud computing, why do you need it, and all the stuff, right? So just a quick refresher before we jump on to the scalability part. Um, so cloud computing is nothing but an on-demand delivery, right? So let's say, for example, in olden days, when you had to have electrical power in your sorry, right? So in olden days, when you say if you wanted to have electrical power in your house, then you might need to probably have some kind of a thermal system that can provide you the electricity, right? So you do not have a system where you can just click on the switch and you will get the electricity, right? So even let's say, for example, the best classic example is even in the smaller towns in the villages that we have 10 years, 15 years back, uh, we were dependent on firewood for cooking, right? So you did not have a turn on cylinder and you will get gas, right? So effectively, the difference is between you creating a combustible engine for um, fire generation, or you just turn on the gas cylinder and get gas on demand whenever you need for it, and you can turn it off. So that is the difference between on-premise and cloud. Okay. So it is effectively on-demand delivery. Whenever I need it, I will use it. And whenever I don't need it, I'll close it down, right? So what do I need it? So do I need electricity and the gas? No, I need IT resources applications via the internet. So it can start from the platform or the infrastructure, or let's say, for example, you wanted the applications that you wanted to lean on to, you want to have the, say, artificial intelligence resources, you wanted to have some engines borrowed. So anything and everything that can be rented effectively is cloud computing. So this is the difference between owning a house and renting a house, right? So what people were doing, all the corporates were doing is they were actually owning a house, right? So the problem is that if you don't know how many people are going to be staying in that house and how many uh, are we really going to live in this house, then there's no point in buying a mansion for yourselves and then hoping that the number of people who is going to be living in my family is going to be increased over a period of time, right? Or sometimes what happens is we start off with the 1 BHK and then finally find that our family increases manifold and then we need to keep changing and increasing. It's not going to be easy for us to change that, right? So that's the same problem with companies starting to have their own data centers, servers. What they happened was that they bought the servers, built their own servers, and then finally they found out that either they over calculated the capacity or they had under calculated the capacity. And every additional capacity that they need, they are wasting is effectively cost wasted, right? So the best part about cloud computing is pay as you go pricing. So what do you mean by pay as you go pricing? Is just like your Netflix and the Amazon Primes and the Hotstar that you use, right? So as much as you use, and what depending upon what is the kind of uh, usage that you have, you can then pay, right? So let's say, for example, if I need to have only 4 GB RAM in my system, you need to pay as much as that. If I need to have a 64 GB RAM, you can pay as much as that, right? So it's a simple pay as you go pricing. Okay. Now, this one, as I mentioned to you, we are moving away from owning the server data centers than to now renting them. Okay, so that is called cloud computing, as simple as that, right? Now, what is the benefits? Effectively, it is primarily what is happening as a capital expense, right? So when I'm building a company which needs an IT resource, I need to allocate some 5%, 6% of my capital for setting up my IT infrastructure. Now I do not have to set up so much, right? So depending upon the need, let's say, for example, I am starting off as a small kirana shop as a startup. Then my startup gains speed, it becomes um, bigger. I need to expand into a couple of cities. Then I do not have to have a server and built in and located in one place, right? So I can always use the existing cloud on AWS or Azure and use the best in class services for me, right? So that is the best part. Now, benefits from massive economies of scale, right? So when you are not going to be owning them, right? From maintaining them to making them available is not your headache, right? It is going to be the Amazon Web Services people or the Microsoft Azure teams headache to ensure that they are going to give us 99.999% availability, right? So we'll come to what is availability in a minute's time, right? Okay. So the best part is about stop guessing capacity. You do not have to guess what is the size of my company or my organization is going to be in a period of time. Okay, so it can go bonkers or it can go manifold. Depending upon that, I'm going to be using or renting the IT services required in my cloud, right? Okay. And I do not have to spend money on maintenance of data centers. It is going to be the cloud provider's job to do that. Okay, so those are the simple ones. The best one for me is if you're going to have a startup, you can go global in minutes because you already have multiple data centers in, let's say, in Amazon. You have data centers housed in India, Singapore, Dubai, and Sydney. So you can effectively keep one data center closer to the place where you would want to branch out and go global, right? So that's the best part. Okay, perfect. So as I told to you, let me try to explain to you what do you mean by stop guessing capacity, right? So you see that the these lines, right? The horizontal lines that you see over here, which is step lines, those are the ones which typically what on premises we used to do, right? So even 4 5 years back, what we used to do is we buy for the peak volume or the traffic that we might see in our company, right? So let's say, for example, my traffic volume increases manifold during the Diwali or Christmas season. So what I need to do is I need to ensure my systems are tuned to that level of size and speed so that at any point in time, if I reach that capacity, I should be able to handle that traffic volume. Okay, so what do I need to do is if I say that my um, traffic is increasing this much, then I need to buy and keep it so much so that I don't go, I don't run into a scenario where my systems go down, right? Okay, so let me try to explain to you with an example. So this is a non-profit organization. You see that the November traffic is typically like this. And this is a typical financial organization, which you see that a lot of transactions happens in the last week of the month, right? So you can see that the traffic increases over here. Typically in an on-premise capacity, what I would have done is I would have provisioned for this, the one which you see in the top, right? But how can you do it in the cloud world, right? So before you go there, so you can see that 25% of the times, okay, you have this kind of traffic, and 75% of the times you don't use this one, right, at all, right? So having this for 75% of the times is not required. So ideally what I want is this capacity to be a high only for this time and not during this time, right? So the best part is if you're able to provision and have a pattern on what is going to be my traffic, the blue line is what your cloud capacity is going to look like, right? Just give a 5-10% buffer on top of whatever your traffic is going to be. So on demand, on an everyday basis or an every week basis, I can scale up or scale down depending upon the traffic volume that I can see in my systems, right? So you save a ton, right? So by doing this, right? So that's a major benefit of cloud computing. Okay. So just coming back, cost savings is the biggest positive. Pay as you go pricing, scaling to meet your needs in real time, and the best part is economics of scale, right? Then let me jump on to a major topic of scalability versus availability. So I always have this problem when some of the students or even my employees, my team members who come and ask me like, sir, what is the difference between scalability and availability? Are they related or are they completely different from each other? They are related, but they are also different from each other, right? So let's understand scalability and then we will talk about availability. Okay. So let's just imagine that I'm planning to go on a holiday trip to Goa, and I have called three of my friends to come and accompany me. So we thought, okay, let's try to take a car, a four-seater car. So three people plus from me, we should be able to fit into the car comfortably. But when I was trying to talk to these three people, I also had talked to some of the three of my friends as well, and they had told initially that they are not going to be coming. Okay. So, but then they told that in the last minute, they told that I'm also going to
Student, please wait. The speaker is going to join back.
back again. I think the meeting got locked and I was kicked out. Not sure why. Okay, so where did we stop? Did you guys started hearing my road trip journey or not yet?
Students, please respond. Please use the unmute button.
Okay, sir.
Which slide were we in when you stopped hearing me? Did you guys hear this one? Okay, for the benefit of others, I'll start it from here. So just imagine that me and my three friends are planning for a Goa trip, and we started off to use the car that we own because it's a comfortable four-seater car, so that should be good enough for us to use it for the journey. Okay, perfect. So we did ask a couple of other of my friends as well. Okay, uh, and we found that they initially told that they are not going to be available for the trip, but later they told that they're going to be ready to join. Okay. So now we have a problem. So my car is a four-seater car and we have six friends plus me. So that would be seven people. Now we would not be able to fit them into the car, right? So now what are the two options that I have, right? One is I can rent a bigger car. So I'll take a seven-seater car so that everyone can go together. Okay. But what is the problem in renting a bigger car? Anyone?
Students, please keep this session interactive. Please respond.
Okay, yes, sir.
So the problem with having one car is that you have only one point of failure, right? So if in case you have a car which stops working, then the whole trip is going to go in for a toss, right? Okay. So the other option that we can have is we can certainly have rent two cars and we can fit in the same seven people and we can continue the journey. So what we are doing now is that we were scaling up, but we are scaling up in two different ways. Okay. One, we were renting up a bigger car or we were adding one more car, right? So there are two different types of scale. So effectively what is scalability is the capacity to increase the IT resource in scale and in size. Okay. It can either be in scale or in size. So you can increase the size of your car or it can increase the number of your cars, right? So in cloud computing, what if you mean is that you on demand, you can increase the system resources if you would want to increase, grow, or manage the resources depending upon the traffic that you have. Okay. There are two types of scalability, horizontal scalability and vertical scalability. Okay. So what is vertical scalability? That's what you saw in the times of renting a bigger car. Okay. Horizontal scalability is when you added one more car for the trip. Okay. So that is as simple as an analogy that you all can always remember. Okay. Now, if I talk in the technical terms, what is vertical scalability? What is vertical scalability is increasing into a bigger car. Mean vertical scalability is nothing but you are increasing the capacity of your resources, but you are adding more processing power. You are increasing the power. Let's say, for example, you have a 4 GB RAM. You are increasing it to a 16 GB RAM or a 64 GB RAM. So you are increasing the storage. Okay, if you're having a smaller database, you're increasing the size of your database. You're increasing the memory. You're increasing the CPU. So increasing the speed of your networks. So increasing an already existing IT resource is called as vertical scalability. In AWS terms, we call it as increasing the capacity of the instance. Okay, so you are upgrading the application hardware when you are talking about vertical scalability. Okay, perfect. Now, what are the things that you can increase in vertical scalability? You can improve your disk input output speed. CPU you can increase, memory storage, and also the network speed. You can improve all the four items when you are increasing vertical scalability. Good. Now, what are the types of systems that use vertical scalability? It is usually mostly used for non-distributed systems like databases. Okay. So if say, for example, I have an application, but I am having backend databases. So I use what I call as vertical scalability to increase the size depending upon the size of the data or the incoming traffic that I have. Okay. Perfect. And it is also used for, I have only one non-distributed application that I'm hosting. You can use that for it as well. Okay. Now, when do I use horizontal scalability? Horizontal scalability is adding more similar items. Okay. Adding more similar cars. Okay. So the best part is you're adding multiple systems that can share the load that is going to come in. So let's say, for example, there is increased load coming in. I can spread it across my system so that my systems will not get overloaded in one system. Okay, so that is the best part about horizontal scalability. So the common term that you will hear in corporate world is called as load balancer. That is nothing but horizontal scalability. Okay, so in your old system, you might probably have only one mission hosted in one particular instance. You are actually making multiple missions available so that you can balance your load. Now, what is the trade-off for horizontal scalability? Horizontal scalability is very, very, very cost intensive, right? Because you're adding multiple similar systems, right? So just example, you are renting a Zoom car, which is a bigger car, it's going to be 10-15% more. But if you're renting two different cars, it's going to cost you more. So that is why horizontal scaling is going to be more high cost intensive. Okay. Now, so scaling out is adding more instances. Scaling in means you are removing instances so that you are taking care of the lesser traffic. So that's the whole thing. Now, when do you use the horizontal scaling? Horizontal scaling is used for distributed systems. When you have systems which are working in client server architecture, you use horizontal scalings. Okay, so in AWS, you have something called as auto scaling groups, which I will quickly talk about it in the next slide as well, which is used for horizontal scaling. Nothing but, so we looked into that fluctuating network traffic, right? So whenever the traffic comes down, the auto scaling group gets activated and it will scale in. Okay. Whenever the traffic goes higher, it will scale out. So scale out is increasing the infra. Scaling in means you are decreasing the infra. Okay. Okay. Now, scale. Okay. Now we have talked about scalability and we also talked about horizontal and vertical scalability. Now, what does mean by availability? So whenever you have a cloud provider, they tell you what is the amount of availability they can promise for your systems. Someone will say 99.5, 99.7, 99.9, depending upon how much you are ready to pay. Okay. So what do you mean by that? That means that in given a period of time, 99.9% of the time, you're going to have the system available for use. They will not have any downtime. Now, how do they ensure your system is available for use in such a very high uptime? Okay. Primarily, they're going to use horizontal scaling to ensure that even if one of the instance goes down, you will have one more system instance available. Just imagine that I have my instance located, let's say Mumbai is going to be the AWS data center. So I have created two instances in Mumbai data center. So I have two instances. Okay. So if one of my instance goes corrupted, my other instance will automatically be up and I will ensure I will have availability. That is availability. Now, second problem is what if my Mumbai data center goes corrupted or someone hacks into the Mumbai data center itself? Okay, so the whole of my both the instances in my Mumbai center is going to go for a toss. Now, what will I do it? That is where the availability zones comes into a picture. So what will I do is I will have two instances of my system, but I will have one in Mumbai and I'll have one more in Dubai. So the chances of both the systems going down is going to be far lesser. So you're going to have systems in one of them in US East, one of them in US, and so I will segregate them into multiple systems and multiple places so that the chances of my system going down reduces to a greater D. And how do I ensure that the speed is reduced, speed difference is not seen? I'm going to ensure that the low latency is available by good optic fiber connections between the systems. Okay, so that's going to be a quick summary of what is high availability and how do you achieve high availability by usage of horizontal scaling. Okay, sounds good. A quick summary. So vertical scalability means renting a bigger car, adding more capacity to the existing resources. Horizontal scalability is adding similar resources to ensure that if one resource goes down, other can come up, or you can load balance the traffic between different sources. Now, if you would want to get into high availability, you're going to hire multiple cars. And obviously, if you're going to space out different people in different cars with more comfort, obviously you need to be ready to pay more. Okay. So that's the quick summary of scalability and availability for you guys. Okay. Any questions for me?
Students, if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and talk, or you can also use the chat box.
Stop the presentation and I'll go to the teams to check if there are any questions.
Dear students, am I audible?
Yep.
So I have shared across a survey link along with the quiz for this particular session. So all students have to compulsorily fill the survey and attend the quiz. So based on how you perform in the quiz, we'll be going ahead and grading you for the same. Okay. Any questions, students? Yashin sir, thanks a lot for this wonderful session.
Thank you. Thanks a lot again. And have a wonderful day, everyone, and have a great future.
Thanks. Thanks a lot for your time, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers. Bye.